When we're looking at a practical approach to advanced care planning, it's important to take a person-centered approach. It'll depend on the context that the person comes to you. Are they coming to you as a health or medical care professional? Are they coming to you in the context of social work care? Are they coming to you as a friend? Are they coming to you as a general supporter? So if you have a professional hat that you're wearing, you may have additional obligations pursuant to your college for your ethical requirements. And I just want to flag those for you there. If they're coming to you as a more general principle, you're going to be spending time educating themselves, and I'm hoping that this course will assist you in educating yourself about how to go about having some of these conversations. The first thing to do is get a sense of the context. Are they talking about advanced care planning because there's something wrong right now? Is there a timeline? Is there a time frame that's running out? Are they concerned that they will be losing mental capacity in the short term? Or are they wrestling with a particular issue which affects capacity now, such as they may have a psychosocial disability. They may have, for instance, some form of manic depression, and in periods of mania may not be capable of making some decisions. Are they concerned about addictions issues and capacity because they will have lost capacity pursuant to some type of an addictive high? Are they looking at dementia? Have they been diagnosed with a dementia or are concerned about a diagnosis with dementia? Or are they just thinking that, I'm going into surgery and as a result, I don't know what's going to happen on the other end of that door? They may be just coming to you because they want to know about advanced care planning in the abstract. They may have had an experience with somebody else, or they may know about powers of attorney, or they may be spending time listening to the news right now about physician-assisted suicide. So it really is important to take excellent notes and to probe questions. Why are you looking at advanced care planning? What are your concerns? What are the issues that you want to address? And how fast do they need to be addressed? Once you've got a sense of that context, you can move forward from there. Some of the key pieces that you're going to need to talk to your colleagues about, or the patient, or the person that you're supporting, is making a list of people who they would want to be their decision makers. This is true for wills. This is true for powers of attorney. If you're in other jurisdictions, that might have different names. If you're in BC, for instance, it might be a Representation Agreement Act. But in the end, you're going to need to have a conversation about who they would like to choose. We'll talk a little bit more in other video lectures and other PowerPoints about how you make a substitute decision. We'll talk about social vulnerability and default lists. But right now, this is a practical approach. You need to sit down with them and say, if you are no longer capable of making a legal decision, a medical legal decision, who would you want? A lot of people will initially talk about their family members, and that's fine. They'll say, I want my spouse, I want my partner, I want my brother or sister or children. And that's fine. They may not want to have somebody who's part of their family. You may need to be part of that conversation to help them sort through who's best. So when it comes down to it, just because they have picked somebody, for instance, to be an executor or a trustee pursuant to a will, doesn't mean that they are having the same role when it comes to advanced care planning, pursuant to probably drafting a power of attorney for personal care if you're in Ontario, or some other kind of power of attorney document if you're in a different jurisdiction. So some people will say, well, I've already sorted that out because I've done my will. And what's important to know is wills only go into effect after you're dead. So you may want to start there. You may want to say, are the same people that you've chosen for your will to be the people who run your estate after you've passed away, are those the people that you want to be your decision makers while you're still alive? When it comes to advanced care planning, it's important to be thinking that we're making decisions that are health-based. So just because you have somebody that might be good with paperwork doesn't mean that that's the right person to be a health or personal care decision. And that can help people think through what kind of decision making it is. Usually when you're having a health or personal care substitute decision maker, that's somebody that needs to be closer to you, physically closer to you, so that as decisions arise, they can have access to you So you may be in some type of supported care or a long-term care facility or in hospital. It's usually better if they're able to come and see you or participate in conversations around your needs and see your needs. So one of the practical approaches is, are the people that you're thinking about to be your substitute decision makers going to be able to access you in a timely fashion? If they're off traveling for work, that may be more difficult. If they live in a different part of the country, that may be more difficult. So again, drill down with whoever you're having a conversation with to see, who's actually going to be nearby or available to take care in terms of making fairly regular sets of decisions about your health and personal care. The second point is you want to make sure that the person is able to support your values, wishes, and beliefs. So it's going to be somebody who either is aligned to your values, wishes, and beliefs. You think the way that they think, and they're willing to put what you would want first, or somebody who's able to put themselves mentally into your shoes. So this is not going to be a decision maker that's going to be somebody who's disagreed with you and is now looking for the opportunity to really correct your action after years of them thinking that you've done this the wrong way. They are now going to make decisions the way that they think that they should be made. No. You're looking to have a decision maker who's somebody who will act as you would act or make decisions as you would want them made. On a practical basis, that usually means if you have somebody who has a religious or ethnocultural decision-making mental framework that is quite different than your own, that can be challenging for them. So an example would be if you have somebody who is, for instance, Jehovah's Witness, who would never want to allow a blood transfusion, but you, when incapable, would want a blood transfusion, it may be more challenging to pick that person because it may go against their values, wishes, and beliefs. Or alternatively, you may want to make sure that they're okay with doing what you want to do. Another practical approach, you may want to decide whether you have one person, two people, or more. You may want to decide whether you need agreement to make the decision or have a default list. So yes, you can pick more than one person to be your substitute decision maker, your attorney for personal care. And you can have the default, which is if you put more than one person down, it assumes in the legislation that they can act jointly and severally, which means whoever essentially makes the decision first, that's fine. You can decide to make them both agree. On a practical note, a lot of people will assume that siblings, if both appointed, will agree on this one important decision, or parents often hope that family members will come together at this time if there's a crisis or a challenge or a decision that needs to be made. In practice, this is usually not the case. Difficult decisions often create more conflict rather than less. So you have to spend some time with your client or your patient or the person you're supporting, making sure that they understand that how decisions get made needs to be a seamless one. So if they have to agree and there's two of them, it's important to get ready to talk about what happens if they clash. Is there a default other person? So if A and B don't agree, it goes to C to decide. On a further note, you may want to be able to talk to people when having these conversations about having a default list. So if the person A that you choose is traveling in Thailand, then it can go to B. But always the power of attorney for personal care would prefer A. So that's fine. So B only kicks in as a default. Some people are used to that as well if they've had conversations around wills. So quickly, on a practical basis, when you're about to sit down with somebody and talking about powers of attorney for personal care, talking about who to choose, consider these particular issues. How far are they away? Are they able to act? Is it going to be one person, two people, or more who are the decision makers? Do they have to agree? Is there a tiebreaker person? Or is there a default list? If one person can't do it, then there's a backup person to do it. Once you get some of that information ready, we're ready to move to some of the practical next steps.